Any other points you want to get to on PulseX, you can. I think this is great to start to get you to just mention 2 fucks and stuff like that to get into some of the farming stuff. And we had some good questions on it too. And, you mentioned like, even though the prices are getting a little bit more bullish now, people have been sitting on their hands wondering like, well, what can I do? What if I don't even have any more money to DCA? What are the things I can do in the meantime? And we always preach on this channel, of course, looking into at least the PulseX pool on PulseX, that farm. And we've had some chat in the chat tonight about that and how most people, if they are LPing or anything, are opting for that. But there are other opportunities as well that some people are maybe a little bit more apprehensive to get into that maybe you could enlighten us to, not only on PulseX, but also on some of these other platforms as well. So, Fast Abdul, thank you for the super chat. But yeah, I'd like to get your thoughts on that. And whenever you think it's time to, I want to pull up a question somebody had about that PulseX pool, because I thought it was a great question for this.
Sure,
topic.
Let's start with that one.
Yeah, let's go to that. Here it is, I think. Yeah, so digital money markets. I'm currently farming the PulseX and Pulse on the Pulse. I can't see what that symbol is. My eyes don't work.
Pulse Farm.
Farm. Okay. Long-term speaking, is it better to hold that liquidity pair or hold PulseX in my wallet? Thanks for the stream. So I think he's just saying, like, what if I just hold PulseX liquid versus actually farming? So I'll let you
so there. The APR that you're making right now, like let's say if the size of your bag does matter.
Yeah.
Let's say you had 10 grand in here and you're going to leave it in there for a year. That's your long term. It's only going to produce you 500 ink, which you could purchase today for $1,500. And when you're looking at the impermanent loss that you could get if PulseX goes to parity, I mean, you're going to lose half your, you won't lose half your stack, but let's just do a quick impermanent loss calculator because it'll help us actually know what actually would happen. So if coin A goes up 100% more than the other one, or double the other one, I guess the impermanent loss isn't too bad. So if asset 1 goes up 200%, that's PulseX goes up 200%, doubles up over Pulse, then Pulse only goes up 100%. You only get 2% impermanent loss, so it's really not a huge loss. That's smaller than the 500 ink you'd earn.
Right.
So I don't think it's that big of a risk. That's the least risky pool. You didn't
include if the price of ink goes up in the meantime.
That's right.
As well, which we anticipate that happening. So
that's right.
As well as the APY fluctuating. I mean, we've seen it go from like 13 to 25%, ranging kind of. So,
but we can go back and we can look at, what actually happened from the lows here. So from this low here, assuming you went into the farm here at the very bottom and you held it to the very top, 1,072% is 11.7x. And then what did Pulse do in the same amount of time? 520%. So it ends up being about 5% impermanent loss. So if it was 10 grand of value, and it's kind of hard to explain, but so that means that $5,000 of your value was in PulseX and it went up 1,000%. So $5,000 times 1,072% is 53,600 bucks. This is assuming you didn't go into the farm, and the other one would be 5,000 times 520%. It's 26,000 bucks. So now you have to add these together. 53,600. So your total here is, your net is 79,600 to stay out of the farms. And then you have to figure, if you times that by your 5% impermanent loss, you lost $4,000 in impermanent loss, because part of your PulseX value got converted into Pulse on the way up.
Right.
So what that looks like is 75,600. 75,620 plus your 500 ink. And your 500 ink, let's assume it did the same move, although this was on a shorter time frame, keep in mind. And plus, we're assuming that you got in at the bottom and got out at the top, and you sold your ink at the peak price. So there's a lot of variables here. Keep in mind, this is an absolutist viewpoint. But then your 500 ink would have went up, 4.8x as well. So, whatever that was, that $1,500 times 382%. So you get 5,730. Your net is you made $730 more profit than you would have staying out of the farm.
Staying in it, yeah.
So it's marginal. But this is assuming that you did the best trades.
Yep.
Which you're not going to do.
Which no one does.
Yeah. The great comment from Fast Abdul, and hits the nail on the head. What do you do with your yield token? I mean, that matters. So, I mean, yeah, some people are just going to hold ink. Other people like to peel off the yield and put it back into these exact tokens and just keep the machine going. Some people like to pull it off and get into riskier assets for leverage on Pulse Chain. I mean, yeah, talk about that too, because I mean, yeah, you don't necessarily have to hold the ink. I mean, I think it's one of those things where some people are extremely bullish on ink and think that RH has a lot of plans for it and things like that. Others are just like, hey, it's like this ecosystem's cake token, and I don't want to rely on it pumping incredibly hard. So yeah, what do you make of that? Because Fast Abdul is right. I mean, yeah, you could do a bang up job with your yield if you want to. So
what you do with it is up to you. There's like a ton of things you can do with your ink yield. I think, what I would do with it is I would just hoard it, because like last year was the year for compounding. This year is the year for holding it liquid, or and trying to basically sell local tops into things that other bets you want to make. There is an element of this game and what that might look like is you have a couple altcoins that you like. So for example, I'll roll this into Communis, because somebody asked a question of, I've been told that COM is extremely scarce. How is this possible when $10,000 can buy nearly 500 trillion plus COM? I can't wait for this question, dude. This is the best question.
I was just gonna put it up, but yeah, if you're, let me know when you want to get into it, and I'll.
So
I'm not finding it right
this
now.
is one of those opportunities that I think is gonna miss. Most people will miss it, and the reason why is because most people don't understand that COM is already up. It peaked out at about 95,000%, which would be about 1,000x. It did almost 1,000x already. Currently, it's up 33,000%, which is like 3,319x, and it's just getting started. Most people don't understand why. But yeah, this would be like one of those side plays that you could make, is on a coin that, after I try to explain why this would be a good trade, somewhere you might want to take your ink to try to outperform the gains you'll get on ink. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, personally, I think ink still got good upside, and it's kind of a shoe-in at this point. So like to give away your ink at $3 when it's already hit 10 very early in the cycle would be, I think, kind of foolish, but to take portions of it and make bets, I think is okay. Yeah, it's up to you kind of how you want to go about that.